everyone, and welcome to our webinar on using the FluentPro Audit Manager for change management in Microsoft Project Online. We've been talking a lot about this change management topic. Recently completed a webinar on using our GA suite. So this is another tool for supporting the change management cycle within Microsoft Project Online, and it also applies to Project Server, but most of the presentation will be made oriented towards Project Online. So, following up on our change management topic, as I alluded to, um, you are if you have Microsoft PPM, whether it's Project Server or Project Online, to get the most value for the organization, you have to follow a continuous improvement cycle where you're constantly monitoring what's going on within the system. Um, Requests from your user base for improvements. Project portfolio management (PPM) is a complex discipline. It's a capability that takes time. So what you want to do as an administrator or a PMO, head of a PMO, head of an EPMO, is to continually check to make sure that you're delivering value. Uh, so today's topic, which is Audit Manager, is a tool that allows you to check and to audit, as the name of the tool suggest, what's really going on in the system from from an event standpoint. So it is a much better way of monitoring um, system events than what's available out of the box. Now, coming back to this topic of continuous improvement, here whether you're using Six Sigma or any other method, what you want to do is you want to monitor performance of your project portfolio management system. You want to understand the events of Microsoft PPM and enable a tool set to audit those events in Microsoft PPM. And that's what Audit Manager does for you. Uh, if you put it in the context of an entire change management cycle, and we used this slide previously, you're going to go through and make changes uh, from your initial configuration of Project Online. And in order to do that, you would use the FluentPro Governance and Administration Suite, which we've shown before. If you haven't seen it, we recommend that you go look at it. Once you go through that change cycle, what you're going to do is monitor what's actually taking place within the system. So it's one way of validating that the changes that occurred are actually adding value and are performing according to the way that you intended, would be to use the Audit Manager product. So um, in a way, it's what comes after making changes. It's actually seeing what's taking place from a system standpoint. Uh, that's really the reason for being for Audit Manager. So in addition to that, we have um, some additional questions that might be of value to you. They have to do with uh, the source of value in the system, and that this is where um, Audit Manager can help support that. So the first has to do with the number of projects that have been created during week, month, or year. So from an EPMO or PMO standpoint, this might be a value just to see whether you're actually reaching the targets that have been defined for the PPM system in terms of project closure, or even um, understanding where projects are exiting a specific workflow stage. Uh, you can actually monitor that with audit. The changes that projects go through in workflow, if you're using workflow or workflow custom fields, can be actually monitored and derived. And also, if you have multiple administrators with the ability to add resources, what has been the change within that resource pool. So all of these have to do with a higher level of understanding of usage, of pattern, of consistency against the PPM process that you initially uh, defined within your system. The key question is that you're using Microsoft PPM the way it was intended. So Audit Manager can help you track all of those actions and determine whether you're meeting those levels of consistency. The second has to do a much more granular level from a system standpoint and understanding compliance and governance from an administrator standpoint. And here is, these are very, very specific questions in terms of who deleted a project, who deleted a task. These are individual actions to, the core elements of Microsoft PPM. A common one that we get is who modified a project owner, so who changed that project manager on that project. And from a governance and compliance standpoint, this can help you determine how actions have occurred. And we we do have many cases of customers that use the product and have through some administrative action, either direct or indirect, because there's system actions that can occur, uh, especially if you're using Project Server. There were a number of settings that were changed, which severely impacted the security model, and as a result, they couldn't understand why the system was behaving a certain way. Well, they had audit turned on, and they were able to actually see what system action modified the security model, and at what point in time, specific point in time, that occurred. So, if you're looking for that type of administrative governance, this is where Audit Manager can add a significant amount of value. In terms of the core functionality, this is on our website, and I have a colleague, Gennady Guskov, is going to do a demonstration of the tool. But essentially, you're tracking anything that changes from an event standpoint in the system in Project Online or Project Server, whether you can see custom fields all the way through resources in a very detailed way, and the 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 value of it is the output, the reporting, which we're going to also show. Uh, so why the need for Audit Manager? I'll just summarize. You're basically increasing the administrative tracking of all actions in Online Project Server. You can understand anything that's taken place and who actually, the individual or system that actually um, allowed that action or made that action occur in Project Online or Project Server. If you're in a highly regulated industry or have very strict IT policies, this is another way of uh, providing those audit logs in terms of what's going on within Project Online or Project Server. And as I said, if you extract and summarize all the data, you can actually support validation, of usage and value from Microsoft PPM by using Audit Manager. So with that short summary, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Gennady, who is going to give us a brief overview of the solution.
Hello, Jose, can you hear me well?
Yeah, Gennady, I can hear you.
Okay, okay. So hello, my name is Gennady Guskov. I'm solution consultant from FluentPro, and let me share my screen to show you a demo and to show you how does the audit manager look.
We are seeing your outlook, Gennady. We are seeing Audit Manager now. Gennady, we cannot hear you.
Sorry. Um,
Now you're back. Thanks.
yes, sorry. So this is the Audit Manager, and it is a part of our another application, EPM Pulse. This application is available through the Office Store, so you can install it. If you don't have it on your Project Online instances, you can install it on any of them. Um, so the as Jose already explained, there the main two scenarios for working with audit is to see the normal operations, which are creating projects, resources, or any other items, um, and the operations that when you're going to troubleshoot something, when something has already occurred, and you need to find out what happened, what changes were made, and who made this change, probably. What time was that? Every part, every aspect of this is important in its sense, because by finding out when the issue had occurred, you will be able uh, to find the appropriate backup, which you can restore. For example, if you have the backup configured with our GA suite, you will be able to locate exactly the date when the item that you're looking for was still in its previous state. Um, if it's a simpler item like a field, you would probably restore that manually by looking at the field value and the previous value, which is shown in Audit Manager. Um, and in case of like when you're looking who did that, you would probably warn the person around making changes into specific part of the configuration, or you would then uh, resolve this, how the people are working together, because in some scenarios uh, the the changes that people make, they can be inadvertently made. So they may be working together on this. So like two project managers can be working together on a single project, and they can update single project one after another without checking whether there is a newer version, and then the the later version overwrites the previous one, and all the task changes that were made by the previous manager would be missing. So in this particular case, that you would find out who did the latest change, and who had been working with uh, to advise on how to proceed with such projects, or how to when to communicate to each other. So, for example, if there are more than one person that's working on a project. On the screen, you see the interface of the Audit Manager. It's divided into two parts. The upper part is the controls and the selectors for the events that you're finding out the information for. And the lower part is the event details table, which has the columns like the date when the event has occurred, the user who made the change, entity type, one of the supported ones, the event type, entity name. Uh, the rest the rest of the table is more like a technical information, especially the IDs for the entity and for the parent entity. The parent name would sometimes be useful when you're looking at the task changes, because there can be multiple tasks with the same name in the projects. So you would get the idea what is uh, the parent project name. Or if there is a change in the lookup value, you would then see, like on my screen, you would see the lookup table name in here, because there can be also different entities in different lookup tables. Um, so when the entity information is expanded, you can see uh, if this is applicable, which field had been changed, and two columns which correspond to the previous value of the field and the current value of the field. And so this corresponds to the exact change that occurred. For example, this one occurred on October 29th. So the previous values for this, so the entity in my case is resource, it's Adam bar, and the field values weren't set for resource country or resource department, and after they were set to UK and IT, they were reflected in here. It's possible to monitor both the native fields for the entities, like resource resource costs, and for the custom fields like resource country. This goes about all the entities. Well, if this is a project, a task, or resource. In any case, the custom fields can be monitored, so it's not only about the project owner or any other fields. So any fields that are a part of the PWA configuration and can be seen for this entity, for the project, for a task, or for a resource, the changes will be tracked here. From technical standpoint, the configuration that is done in as a part of EPM Pulse, the Audit Manager configuration, is uses the event handlers, and the event handlers, as you can see on my screen right now, are enabled in sections. So there is a section for projects, for resources, for custom fields, and lookup tables. Once the section is enabled, the system adds an event handler on a respective entity and starts capturing the events to the database of the audit manager. So let me actually show you how it's working. And for example, let me grab the same resource. So right now, this resource has the same fields as specified in the latest update, because when sorted by date, when the latest is on top, you would see the latest values that were applied for an entity. And if I change these values and save the resource, I almost instantly get the updates in the Audit Manager. So right now I have the changes reflected in the Audit Manager for this resource. Very similar to this, I would get a record if I change any project. Even if the project is not published, but I do change its properties, for example, the priority, which is a custom field. After saving a project, after save job succeeds, I will see a record in the Audit Manager for that. The controls themselves help you to decrease the amount of information that is available in the report, because if you have the if your PWA is large enough and there are many users, so there would naturally be many events. The Audit Manager does not recognize the nature of the activity, so everything that can be tracked in with these event handlers that are a part of the configuration, it would be reflected here. And every time you would edit the project, every time you hit save, then it would be reflected in the Audit Manager. Every time you create, modify, or remove a resource, it would be reflected here. So the table can become quite large, and it would be hard to navigate through that. To help you out, there is a number of controls to filter the report for only the entities that you want to look at. These are native controls of the Audit Manager. So this is the interface. We are also working on a report based on the same data. The report is in the Power BI, and it would show a slightly different view of the same data, and it would be more easy to compile some information of your own. But in this interface, we can select the entities. We can select multiple ones, like this. So we could see both entries for projects and for resources. If we were to see, if we were looking for the information only for removed entities, we would look here. For example, if I remove anything, let me actually. I'll remove the CFO campaign. So, so when I removed a project, there is another record that appears in the table. So if I'm looking at projects, I'll see all the records in here, regardless of the event type. If I only select like this, but if I'm looking for a specific one, I'll get only a part of the table that corresponds to the filters selected. And you can combine any filters as you wish. Moreover, you can filter the records in within text fields. For example, if the entity name, sorry, if the entity name you're looking for contains CFO, you could look only for the entries that contain that name. Uh, Similarly, you can filter the field name, for example, department. Yeah. So that would show you the records where only that field was changed. Um, in rare cases, you would check for entity ID if you know one. And for the username, you would use the login, not the actual username, but the login name. So it would work like this. Um, we were asked if you could track the delegates. So if you could track who made the change, even if there was a delegate session that he was working in. And yes, you can. So you could see who made the change if this was done in the delegate session, and the username that is displayed in the table will be the name of the actual user, not the delegate. The user who on behalf of which the person is working. All right, I think that's um, that's the list of features we currently have available. I can show you the draft of the report, which looks very similar. Jose?
Yes, please go ahead.
So in the report, this is only a draft. We're working on the compiling the data for normal operations, like I said, for projects, resources that have been created or closed in case of the projects for some during some dates. For example, if I select starting the October 1st, it would be changed accordingly. And the administration troubleshooting we're working at, it very much resembles the interface of the audit manager itself, with the ability to drill through to the event details and to apply multiple filters, just like the audit manager interface allows you to do. We would be grateful for any suggestions. What would you like to see in such a report? Um, but as of now, it's looking very much similar. But um, as opposed to the audit manager interface, this report is customizable. So once you have the audit manager in this report, you can customize it to fit your own needs. So that's the main difference. All right. Please feel free to ask questions about audit.
Great, Gennady. Thank you for presenting. I'm going to go ahead and close out with a couple of slides. So the reports that you just saw is part of the roadmap, and we will be shipping those shortly. Um, I want to make a point out on security, um, since in the case of Project Online, this is part of our data mart. And we've invested a significant amount of resources for all of our products to be compliant with GDPR and also Privacy Shield framework. So all of our products hosted on Azure have these characteristics and meet security requirements. We're more than happy to go through any audit that you might have. We have documentation on architecture and security for, like I said, all of our products. So you can rest assured that we're addressing security threats and protecting your data in our applications in Azure. So very important uh, component. So pricing for of the product currently, by the way, this changes. So if you look at this, in the future, you'll see that pricing might change and is only valid. We only, issue this during 30 days. So it is subject to change. So please call back. But basically, you have two versions: one for Project Server and one for Project Online. The version for Project Online is subscribed on it annually per PWA in a tenant. For Project Server, it's per farm. So if you have multiple PWAs, you'll see that that we allow multiple PWAs within a single farm. So those are the two versions. Project Server, obviously, it's on premises, and if you're doing Project Online, it is hosted. It can also be on premise, but it is um, the pricing that you're seeing. It's for the SaaS version of Audit Manager. And just to close, Audit Manager is part of the set of products from FluentPro that allows you to get more value out of your project align your project server instance. And like I said, for change management specifically, you have the governance and administration suite as well as audit manager that we talked about today. So with that, I will complete the presentation. And if there's any questions, please feel free. So I have a question here dealing with can audit manager be deployed on premises for Project Online? And the answer is yes. There's an additional cost with a on-premise premium support plan, but if your security requirements mandate that you must have it on-prem, you can. It's basically an extension of our data mart um, for Project Online on premises for an organization. So you can actually deploy Audit Manager on premises if needed. Well, with this, I will close the webinar. Thanks everyone for attending. We will have a recording up on our YouTube. So if you need additional information, please feel free to reach out at our sales line, sales@fluentpro.com or info@fluentpro.com. Thank you, Gennady, and look forward to seeing you in our next webinar.
Thank you. Bye.